Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb Visual for August of 2014. First of all, we've got a very interesting month going on. It's August, which means school is probably starting. It also means that the summer is ending, so you get a pretty good last hurrah here in August, though, because astronomically, at least, it's a pretty good month. We've got, excuse me, we have Mars and Saturn. They've been slowly getting closer to each other. So they're going to pass each other. And then also we have Jupiter and Venus that are going to pass each other as well, but in the other part of the sky, on the other side of the night. And then there's also the annual Perseid Meteor Shower, which is always at least pretty good. So good stuff going on. So I think the way that I want to go this month is I want to talk about the planets first, Saturn and Mars in the evening, and then Jupiter and Venus in the morning, and then from there go on and take a look at the moon. If you take a look, I have it for August 1st, and you'll see we've got, let me go a little bit later. We've got the moon, nice crescent moon at the beginning of the month. Then you see Mars and Saturn over here. Now I'm going to move this so that we can zoom in on Saturn and Mars. And if you take a look, Saturn and Mars on August 1st look like that. Now, if I keep going day by day, you'll notice that Saturn and Mars get closer and closer together. And in fact, on, let's see, what is it, August 24th. Basically from the 21st to the 24th, that's when they get really close. That's about 3.5 degrees apart. And that's going to go and basically continue for the rest of the month. Mars gets further away. And then, really cool part is August 31st, the moon, Saturn, and Mars make a really cool triangle, which is really neat. And this is, of course, after sunset. I have it set right now for 9:30. But really, you should be able to see this starting at 8:30. And they set around 10:30. So somewhere around that area. So if you want to see Saturn and Mars, get out after sunset and look to the southwest, and you'll see them. And on the 31st, you'll also see the moon. In fact, I think, yeah, there it is. The moon is in there as well. See, on August 1st, it's a nice crescent. On the 2nd, the moon is much closer to Mars and almost a first quarter. And then on the 3rd, it is a first quarter moon. And then it's right in between Mars and Saturn. And then on the 4th, they make another line again, with the moon being a little bit thicker. Yeah, so that's Mars and Saturn for the month. And let's go back to August 1st. And now instead, let's go to sunrise early in the morning. Let's look east, and you'll see Venus. Now let's go back to like 5:30, because it's still a little bit darker then. And what you'll notice is that as the month goes by, Venus gets closer and closer to the sun. All right. Let's go back to sunrise. And oh, look, there's Jupiter. See, if I go backwards, Venus is back there. Now let's go forward in time. Okay. Venus gets closer and closer to Jupiter until they pass each other within about half a degree if you're in the Americas. If you're in, I think it's Europe, you might get 0.3 degrees, but we're about half a degree. So you can, I would almost guarantee that you can see both of these in one, definitely in binocular view, even a telescope view, depending on what setup you got. You can probably see both of them in one eyepiece, which is really cool. You don't get that often. In fact, I think it's the first time in 13 years or something. But anyway, in the morning, look to the east, find the really bright spot that is Venus, and Jupiter will be nearby. Jupiter's actually passing by it as the month goes by, and by the 31st, Venus is pretty much not really visible unless it's like right at sunrise, or you've got a really clear view of the horizon. So, again, we've got Jupiter and Venus in the morning in the east, and sunset in the west. We've got, southwest. Mars and Saturn out in that area. Now, let's talk about some of the events. Let's go back. Let's go to August 3rd, and you'll see the moon is in first quarter phase. And as far as events go, or movement in the sky, each night, let me fast forward to like 9 o'clock. Each night, the moon gets further and further away from Saturn and Mars and closer to the east. And on August 10th is when you have the full moon. Obviously, the full moon is, well, full. You can see all of it, and you can see it from sunset to sunrise. But the cool part is next. It will be on the night of the 12th to the morning of the 13th. Now, you're not really going to see anything about it here, although I wonder if it'll have the radiant on here. 12th to the 13th is the Perseid Meteor Shower, which is always a good one, except, well, every 3 years there's usually a full or a gibbous moon that kind of interferes. It brightens the sky and the dim Perseids get drowned out. And this year is one of those, since the gibbous moon will be out after 10 p.m., which normally midnight to the morning is usually the best time to look, but the moon will be out. But don't give up, because you can still see plenty of them, even in that first hour or two before the moon comes up. In fact, you might see the best ones then, because those would be called earth grazers. They're the ones that come in at a very low angle, and they take a long time to get through the atmosphere. Instead of just diving in and burning up real quick, they're slower, kind of like more skipping a stone through the water as opposed to just throwing it straight down. And don't forget, you're seeing the leftover bits of Comet Swift-Tuttle, and they're entering the atmosphere at 37 miles per second, which is really, really cool. Let's see if they're... Oh, no, I don't have the radiant on here. But if you take a look, the radiant is the place where the meteors appear to be coming from, and that is in Perseus. Hence, it's a Perseid meteor shower. And you see that the radiant rises around 10 p.m., and it goes up, 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 and in the morning is when it's most overhead, and that's the best time to look. But there's that nice, just past full moon over there. So, I don't know. Go out, check it out anyway. So, anyway, day to day. Let's move 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. We've got the third quarter moon, or last quarter moon. You can see that anywhere from, let's go back to about midnight all the way into the morning. In fact, technically the moon is out until, it looks like 2 p.m. or so. But it's just kind of hard to see unless it's really high overhead. But anyway, let me back up. Sorry, it's a little disjointed this month. Lots of stuff going on. But anyway, let's go to August 18th. We've got the conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. And that's going to be in the morning. Excuse me. Venus and Jupiter, really, really close together. And again, look between, I'd say, 5:30 and 6. It's probably your best shot to see that. And then the quarter moon gets smaller and smaller. Let me zoom back out so you can see that. Okay. Each night it gets smaller and closer to the sun and closer to Jupiter and Venus until on the 23rd there's a nice close encounter between Jupiter, Venus, and the moon. It will be tough to see because it is an extremely thin crescent. These are extremely low, but it's definitely worth a shot to get out there. Probably, again, 5:30 to 6 a.m., somewhere around that time. Make sure you get high on a mountain and you can look east. That's your best shot because trees they very easily get in the way. Now, what's also going on the 23rd, let's switch back to sunset on the 23rd. So right at night, and let's look west, really southwest. This is, again, when Saturn and Mars are getting very, very close together. And you see from the 23rd to the 26th, Mars passes Saturn. That's when they are the closest. In fact, let's see. On the 25th, let's see if this works right, only about 3 degrees and 25 minutes, or arc minutes. So about 3.5 degrees apart. And yeah, so then 25th is the new moon. That's when the moon and the sun are basically in the same spots in the sky, although the moon is usually shifted up or down a little bit when we don't have an eclipse. And lastly, on the 31st, the moon is up there with Saturn and Mars, right in the same area. And in fact, I'd say it's probably about, let's see if this will work. Angular separation within about a 5 degree field of view, which is pretty neat. If you actually look close, this is what it would look like in reality: Saturn, Mars, and the moon. And in fact, there's also what star is that? Iota Libra. That's also in there and very bright. But anyway, that's really what's going on for the month. As far as looking at constellations, if we go to the 15th, I like to go to the 15th, look to the south, and then I could go a little bit native. This is a really good time for the Milky Way. The center of it is very up high for what it can be for us in the northern hemisphere. But you got Scorpio off to the south, and Sagittarius. Those are the two that are the best to look at in the because that's where the center of the galaxy is. We're looking down into it, and we're seeing lots of really cool stuff there. But if you actually look, let's see, straight up, I'll do zenith, and around 9:30, you'll see Hercules up here, okay, with Lyra sort of out there as well. And you could zoom in on the Hercules cluster M13 if you have dark skies and a pair of binoculars. But then let's see, let's go to midnight. Whoops. There we go. Midnight, you'll see that everything is moved, and now Cygnus and the Milky Way, but the opposite side of the Milky Way, part we're kind of looking out on, is up there with Cygnus the Swan. And these three stars, Cygnus's bright star, Deneb, and Lyra's bright star, Vega, and Altair, which is the bright star in Aquila, they make up the summer triangle, which is a asterism of three constellations. You know, if it's midnight and you see them straight above you, it's summer. But if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting until, let's say, early in the morning, you'll see Pegasus and Andromeda. And the cool part is that Pegasus is easy because it's a big square, almost square up in the sky, and Andromeda has these two sort of curved lines with it. And the coolest part, though, is if you zoom in on Andromeda, you can see the Andromeda galaxy. Now, it will not look like that at all, because you're not going to see it that way. That's a long exposure with a camera, probably many cameras actually, or many shots. But you can see a nice faint little smudge up there, probably something closer to something like that maybe if it's very dark. You can see more with binoculars and even more with a telescope. So yeah, I think that's all I'm going to get into here as far as constellations, because those are the really cool ones that are happening now. And yeah, I would like to wish you all very clear dark skies for the month of August and many meteors on the night of the 12th. Good luck.